know that some in our audience know the finer points of hockey.
The Chris Johnston Show.
We are your friends.
The biggest stories, bringing you inside the game.
What did you hear?
The Chris Johnston Show. Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada's sportsbook.
What is going on?
Here's Chris with your host, Julian McKenzie.
Part of the game.
Big Money Siege. Another big week for us. Later this week is American Thanksgiving. So yes, we will have our contenders and pretenders episode like we did last year. Today, what I hope we can do, because the topics, I don't want to say they're dry, but not that much to talk about. We're going to have a few more Ask CJ questions than normal. We're going to cover a few things, but I'm going to try to give you a few more Ask CJ questions. Is that cool?
Yeah, it's great. It's actually funny this week. I had trouble when I'm doing, I answered some of these questions in my Inside the NHL newsletter for North Star Bets. And when I was getting it together, I was like, wow, there's more questions I want to answer than I have ability to, essentially. I mean, there's only so much you can throw into the newsletter. So it's actually perfect the way it worked out.
All right, cool. So we'll have that. But we will cover a few topics before we get to the questions. And of course, David Bastel from Sports Interaction is going to join us as well. I want to bring up the New Jersey Devils to start, though. Your sleeper team doing really, really well right now. As we're recording, 12-game winning streak. I hope we're not the jinxes for this team.
Well, I'm not throwing any J words on them, if that's what you're wondering. But the sleeper team is wide awake right now, and they are terrorizing the NHL. And what stands out to me about the Devils is they're not just winning; they're winning decisively. They're winning analytically in terms of their puck possession and shot numbers. They're winning on the scoreboard, one-sided manner. I mean, it's been impressive. I mean, it's hard to get around the fact. It's not as though they just got a little lucky and they're squeaking out all these shootout wins or something like that. So they have to lose eventually would be the thinking. They play Monday night against Edmonton. So perhaps when you're listening to this, that game's already happened and maybe it's ended there. But regardless, I think it's an impressive streak. And, when you dig into it and talking to some guys that have faced the Devils, they just mention how frustrating it can be because the Devils always have the puck. And if you look at their 5-on-5 goal production, Julian, their first line has 12 total goals at even strength. Their fourth line has 11 total goals. And lines 2 and 3 are dangerous too. And so while this team might not have what we'd label a true NHL superstar at this point in time, I mean, maybe Jack Hughes gets there or Nico Hischier. Obviously, they have really good players. I'm certainly not demeaning them. What they have built is a pretty deep forward group in particular. I think their blue line's working well. And obviously, there's a little bit of magic that comes together. Culture and all those things play into this kind of start. And they were in Toronto last week, and just standing near them, you could feel the vibes were immaculate.
And they have Lindy Ruff as their head coach leading the way, who I have to imagine if the Devils make the playoffs this year, his name is thrown right into that Jack Adams conversation. Am I right or am I right?
You're right. I mean, he fits the profile perfect, right? I mean, the Jack Adams at times is an award. It's one of the awards the writers don't vote on, so I don't have a say in it. And I always find it frustrating, confusing, what have you, that sometimes the absolute best coaches in the league are passed over for sort of the good stories. That's not to say Lindy Ruff isn't a good coach, but this is a perfect good story type of situation. We're a long ways off having to vote for that. I mean, who knows? Maybe one of these other surprise teams makes the playoffs too. It's kind of been an upside down year in some ways in the first few weeks of the NHL season. So, I mean, the Devils they're a great story though, and they play really well. I think that's what is the redeeming quality for me. Is sometimes teams get on crazy streaks and it's just smoke and mirrors. I don't think this is a mirage. I think this is a good team, and they're going to disrupt the balance of power somewhat in the Metropolitan Division because there just probably isn't room for all of Washington and Pittsburgh, and the Rangers have high hopes. Obviously, Carolina. You start to the Islanders are still there, so I'm not sure who's going to make the playoffs out of that division, but I can tell you someone who misses is going to be a team that didn't expect to miss.
Hold some of those thoughts about who will make the playoffs for Thursday, my man, for that Contenders and Pretenders episode. But in the meantime, we'll bring on David Bastel from Sports Interaction. As always, it's for those 19 and over. We ask that you please play responsibly, and there is a link to responsible gaming strategies in the description of this show. It's time for You Can Bet That.
Sports Interaction, Canada's Sportsbook, presents You Can Bet That with David Bastel. Must be 18 plus. Please play responsibly. Ontario only.
Welcome to You Can Bet That with David Bastel. Good to see you, my man.
Good morning.
So remember to hit up sportsinteraction.com/SDPN for all of your gaming needs. We are approaching the 20 game mark in the National Hockey League, which means it's never too early to start looking at who is going to pick Connor Bedard in next summer's NHL entry draft. And Sports Interaction already has odds on who could be the betting favorite. So tell us, DB, who's the betting favorite right now?
Yeah, and it's one of those players, guys, where it truly is a franchise piece, right? Usually the number one is a significant piece, but every once in a while there's a piece like this, and you guys know this better than I do, that could really change a franchise. So no surprise, Sports Interaction has the Anaheim Ducks as the number one favorite right now because they are dead last in the NHL, but CJ, I'm not convinced the Ducks are the worst team. And I know a lot of it has to do with lottery luck as well, where you have that bottom five and then you hopefully your ping pong ball gets the last one, right? Or that first one, however you want to look at it. But in my eyes, you know what? I don't look at the Ducks as the worst team in the league. So I'm not sure if they're going to get the most selections or opportunity to select them.
Yeah, it seems to me like Columbus could be headed there. I mean, just with the some of the injuries they've had and the start they've had to their season, Chicago could fall back. Arizona. There's a few teams like I know the Coyotes, for example, have won more games than any of us were predicting, but it's a long season, and I'm not sure that even everyone inside the organization wants to see them win that many more games. So this is such an enticing player as you're talking about. There's been lots of pain in any of the markets that are listed on for this bet, but this is the prize at the end of it.
Connor Bedard, absolutely worth it. David, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to hit up sportsinteraction.com/SDPN for all the best odds before game, in game, and the best props. sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. Let's talk Shane Wright, the fourth overall pick in this summer's NHL entry draft, sent down to the AHL on a conditioning stint. With the CHL agreement in place, he can't be fully outright sent to the American Hockey League. He's eligible to play at least 5 games. He's supposed to be there for about 14 days. What's your insight on what's going on there?
Well, here's the problem, right? There's an agreement between the NHL and the Canadian Hockey League that puts severe restrictions on players that are drafted out of the CHL in terms of what NHL teams can do with them in that first year or two after they're drafted. And so it's been unfortunate to see Shane Wright scratched in 11 of the 18 games Seattle has played. He's barely played in most of the 7 that he actually dressed for. It's obviously not ideal for his development, but the Kraken look at it like he's done a lot at the OHL level. I think that they want him around their team, getting time with NHL coaches. And so this is sort of an imperfect situation, and this is a solution they've come up with for now, because there is a little window of opportunity built into that same agreement, where if you've been scratched for 5 straight games, you can be sent to the AHL for 2 weeks. And so this 2 weeks will essentially take Shane Wright to into December. I would think he'll come back up with the Kraken, and maybe you see him play one more NHL game. And then I would expect he'll be sent to Canada's World Junior team, where there's a camp and then ultimately the tournament in Halifax and Moncton over Christmas time and into the new year. And so, we'll see what they do with him when it comes to that point, but it's really not an ideal season. But I think the problem, if we're looking at it from an individual or team level, the problem is this agreement is so restrictive, because players drafted out of Europe, like Juraj Slafkovsky, for example, the Montreal Canadiens could send him to Laval if they wanted, and not on a conditioning loan. They could just send him there for 2 or 3 games for a weekend and bring him back the next week. They could send him to Europe. They could actually even assign him to the OHL if they wanted. Those players have more ability to have the NHL team guide where they think it's best for them to develop. Now, the larger scale issue, if we're not talking about any individual player, is the Canadian Hockey League obviously produces a number of NHL players. And so I think that agreement comes out of wanting the best for that league, not wanting to rob them of too much talent, because obviously having a talented league like that helps build great players. And, it's not just a CHL. I was at a GM's meeting a couple of years ago, Julian, and members from Sweden had come over to basically urge NHL GMs, don't keep Swedish players if you're only going to play them in the AHL, because you're hurting our domestic league, and that's going to hurt everybody ultimately. And so there's a sort of natural tension built in from 10,000 feet for all these leagues, that you want as many great players that aren't full-time NHLers in them. But I do feel bad for the players themselves. I feel bad for Shane Wright. It's just not the ideal season. I suppose if you're going to, look at it from the right mind frame, though, he is getting to be in the NHL. He's getting paid an NHL salary. He's still probably going to represent Canada at the World Juniors, and then can come back to the Kraken and hopefully get in more games later in the year.
I gotta say, a bit of a weird last few months, if you're thinking about it, for Shane Wright, right? This is a guy who we spent most of last year thinking, yeah, he's probably going to be the number 1 overall pick. And then we get closer to the draft and we're wondering, is he going to be the number 1 overall pick? And then he falls to 4th overall and now is in the situation that he's in 1 assist in those 7 games for Shane Wright.
Let me put a point on that, though, because
sure,
obviously in sports, we build narratives, and narratives follow players around. Like, let's go easy on this guy. I'd urge people, because it's still really early. He's really young. Just if this season doesn't go perfect, and I know that's not what you're saying, Julian, but it just occurred to me that, like, sometimes we slap the storylines on players. Like, he still was drafted 4th overall. He's still 18, 19 years old. There's lots of time for him to have a great career. A number of players play in NCAA until they're 20, 21 and jump into the league. That's a couple years from where, we're talking about Shane Wright being right now. That's what Cale Makar did, Adam Fox. We can go down the list. Those guys got more seasoning before they got to the NHL. And so let's give him time to grow into himself, I guess, a little bit.
Leon Draisaitl also comes to mind, too, with how he was deployed as well. One more thing before we get to the Ask CJ questions. Nick Robertson in Toronto has only played a handful of games, hasn't played since November 12th. I remember the OT winner, I think, was against the Ducks earlier this year.
The Stars. Against his brother's team.
Excuse me, sorry. 2 goals, 5 points in 10 games. Why isn't Nick Robertson in the Leafs lineup?
It's a roster issue. He hasn't done enough in the games he's played, especially the last few before these scratches started, to warrant a position purely on play that he has to be in their top 12 every night. But obviously there's a different component here, because you're still talking about a younger guy. He's not that old himself. Obviously, he's had some stops and starts. He played with the Leafs all the way back in the August 2020 bubble against Columbus, and still is trying to get his feet under him as a regular NHLer. But, this is becoming a bigger issue for the Leafs, I'd say. Sheldon Keefe termed it the other day, said it's a daily decision for the organization. I mean, they're aware that this isn't just talking about scratching a mid-career guy, because he's not one of their 12 best players. You're worried about, what it could do long-term. Obviously, Robertson has jumped up and down between the AHL and NHL. And I don't really know how this is resolved. I mean, I suppose if there's one injury in Monday's game, then he's probably just back in and we move on like nothing happened. But as long as they remain healthy, I think they're going to have to really look at sending him, maybe back to the AHL. He doesn't need waivers, so he can just be loaned to the Marlies at any point in time to get games, because, I don't think it serves him that well to be watching too much from the press box. And so, it's a difficult one. I mean, I think the Leafs, they really, really want this guy to come up and grab a spot, right? I mean, let's face it, there's no organization that would be cheering harder for one of its players, because it could solve some issues for them. He's still on an entry-level contract. Obviously, we look at the cap with everything. That's part of the ongoing discussion about building the best Leafs team, is what they can do under the cap. And so that would be helpful. That they gave him a run on the second line. Really, it's funny as we look at it, like, to me, the Leafs haven't figured out their second line in some way. I mean, they've, I know they've shifted around the top 2, so it's hard to say anything's in stone, but more or less you have Bunting, Matthews, Marner as your top line. You likely have Tavares and Nylander as 2/3 of your second line. And there's a nice spot on the second line, left wing, that makes sense. Although sometimes Nylander plays there. Anyway, there's a wing spot on the second line that if it isn't Nick Robertson, if the Leafs, I think they'd prefer to play Alex Kerfoot a little lower down in their lineup. Maybe when it comes to the trade deadline, we're talking about them going after a forward. I mean, it's premature to say that. I'm not sure how the season will play out, but that's what it seems to me. And so it'd be great if it could be Nick Robertson, but if if they just don't feel he's ready to grasp those minutes, then I think they're going to have to figure out some mix with their forwards. It feels like they're really searching for it, and that's how a player like Robertson gets out of the lineup, is because they're switching a lot of things around constantly, trying to find the right fit, and I don't think they've got there just yet.
And with that, it's time for Ask CJ, the segment we do on Mondays where we take in questions either on Twitter or on Discord, and CJ answers them happily. We still never got that jingle for that segment. Someone did try to make one. I think one or two people tried. But anyway, now our next partner is a pretty cool product. Let's talk about Athletic Greens. If you're looking to get better gut health, more energy, or a stronger immune system in a really easy, natural way, you've got to check out Athletic Greens. I'm sure you'll agree that most of us are not huge fans of having to take a bunch of pills or vitamins in the morning, but with Athletic Greens, you can get rid of all of those extra vitamin bottles and finally make some room in your cabinet. Athletic Greens is an all-in-one solution that actually tastes good. You'll actually enjoy getting your daily vitamins in. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and even aging. All of the things. It's also lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or you are gluten-free. It also contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals, or artificial anything, while still tasting good. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into the flu and cold season just around the corner. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. No need for a million different pills and other supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do, go visit athleticgreens.com/Johnston. It's CJ's last name, athleticgreens.com/Johnston, to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. It's time to knock that new business idea out of the park with Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. Forget the off-season work. Shopify makes it simple to sell to anyone from anywhere, whether you're selling warm-ups or wall hangers. It's time to start selling with Shopify and join the platform simplifying commerce for millions of businesses worldwide. With Shopify, you'll customize your online store to your brand, discover new customers, and build the relationships that create die-hard fans. Shopify fields all the sales channels to grow a winning business, from an in-person POS system to an all-in-one e-commerce platform, even across social media platforms like TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. And thanks to 24/7 support and free on-demand business courses, Shopify is on your team every step of the way. It's how every minute new sellers around the world score their first sale with Shopify, and you can too. When you're ready to take your winning idea to the world, team up with Shopify, the commerce platform powering millions of businesses down the street and around the globe. You can try out Shopify for free today and start selling anywhere. You can sign up for a free trial at shopify.com/Johnston, all in lowercase, shopify.com/Johnston. That is the code that we were able to have for this ad today. Shopify.com/Johnston. It's CJ's last name. And you use that code, you can start selling online today. Shopify.com/Johnston. Let's get to these questions. It's always cool when we get questions from recognizable people in hockey media. Marc Dumont, who some of you who watch the SDPN Game Overs may be familiar with, also with his work on Montreal Hockey Now. Shout out to Mark. Kent Hughes has been on the job for a little while, and he stuck to his guns in all trade talk asset management. How is he viewed by other GMs? What kind of reputation is he building around the league?
Well, I think with Kent Hughes, what's interesting is he had a long career as a player agent before getting hired by the Canadiens. So he already had a reputation, and it was a positive one. He had relationships with if not all, probably the vast majority of general managers, just because he's, had high profile clients and been in the league a long time and had to deal with a lot of them. And so I think that that's probably a leg up, I would say, on your typical first time GM, because a typical first time GM probably has a much, much smaller pre-existing relationship base entering the league. And look, I think what Kent Hughes's reputation is, a real straight shooter, an honest broker, and, someone who can get things done, because look how many trades he's made. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but he's not even a full year on the job, and he's made several transactions. He's been able to consummate those deals. And so I think he has a positive reputation, and, probably helps that he entered the league, or entered this job, this role, with that reputation already there. And so for him, it's different kinds of calls. He's advocating on behalf of a team instead of some individual clients now, but it's the same guy that is making those phone calls and completing deals.
From Miss Tanya Marie, with snow in Toronto and winter starting, what is your go-to winter dish? I love a good warm bowl of chili.
Oh, chili's good, but I like chili, but I don't have that much chili, so I can't say that's my go-to. I think just some kind of soup. I love soup, whether it's chicken noodle, tomato soup, vegetable soup. Especially if you go somewhere like a diner or something, like I always love a good homemade soup. So that's probably my go-to comfort meal when we get into these cold days.
That's actually someone who, I don't even really like soup that much, but you know what? If you got like enough like pepper sauce in there, or if it's like a little like carrot soup or something, like I'll eat it. Anyway, from the Brat Pack on Twitter, the Brat Pack 63 on Twitter, is Jesper Bratt the best player in the NHL, or should I read the hashtag JBITBPITNHL? I don't know if you've seen that before.
I haven't. I got a weird Jesper Bratt story though.
Tell us the Jesper Bratt story.
So this summer I was in Stockholm on vacation, and I was out for a jog one day, and I ran by a guy and I was like, oh, I know that face. And then I kept running. I was like, oh, I think that's Jesper Bratt. And so that just happened, whatever. That's in August. No big deal. But he was in Toronto last week. And so I went up to him in the dressing room at the morning skate, and I was like, hey, do you live in Stockholm in the summer? Like, obviously I knew he's Swedish, but I didn't know there's a chance it wasn't him. Right. And he's like, yeah, I do. And then I was explaining where I was. He's like, oh, I live right there. Of course that was me. He's like, you should have stopped. You should have said hello. So I had a chance run in with Jesper Bratt, but didn't stop and say hi to him in the summer. That's a long preamble to the question you've asked. Is he the best player in the NHL? No, but he's a tremendous, tremendous story. 6th round draft pick, never played for Sweden at the World Juniors. Well, I believe he was drafted out of the Allsvenskan, the second division in Sweden, meaning he wasn't even in the SHL, and, made an immediate jump to the NHL, and now has taken another step to where he's producing points at an elite rate. He's a restricted free agent this year, so he's in a great position to cash in on his success. And it's easy for me to cheer for guys like that. I mean, I love as much as we love highlighting the stars and talking about Connor Bedard's getting picked first overall. It's not going to surprise us, of course, when someone like Bedard steps in the league and rips it up. But when a player who maybe doesn't follow the same trajectory or doesn't have the same success when they're 15, 16, 17, 18, but still by 23, 24, as Jesper Bratt is, becomes, a star quality player. I mean, that's quite an accomplishment. And I got nothing but time for the guy. And he lives in a nice part of Stockholm, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I was about to say, next time you end up there, if you run into him.
The odds of that situation playing again are low. I don't know when I would be jogging in Stockholm again next, but who knows? It's a long life.
From No One UC, will partnership with sportsbooks finally force NHL teams to provide actual injury information?
Unequivocally, no, because the NHL has no inclination themselves to go towards more transparency on this issue. And, what the league has said on a number of occasions is that the sports books or the gambling partners have not asked them to do so. So if no one's making them, they're not going to go there on their own. And so I think we're stuck with lower body, whatever, upper body type descriptions for most teams. There are a few teams that are more open with sharing timelines and specifics on injuries, but in general, the practice, I think, will remain the same.
Daryl Sutter loves your answer. Anyway, Joe with the Vikings. Would the NHL ever work with the IIHF to make a proper World Cup? Then we could see all the great national jerseys repped.
I wish, but I don't think so. I mean, I guess when there's a world, I guess we get there, but like it's probably going to be like when I'm retired or something. Like maybe it evolves to that eventually. I mean, it's a topical question, both because the NHL and NHLPA just spiked plans for the 2024 World Cup, but also because the Soccer World Cup started, right? And I think those of us that are into the Soccer World Cup and love hockey wonder why can't, I mean, I know why we can't have something on that scale. It's not a sport played in enough countries at a high enough level where it's truly a global World Cup kind of thing, you know, like what we've got going on in soccer. But I don't think it's crazy to try to model a mini version of that for our sport. And I think that there's that temptation will always be there. So maybe there's some circumstances where that happens. I just don't see it in the near future, honestly. Like I probably made it clear on the recent episode. I'm just so down on the inability to get a best on best tournament together. And I know there's all kinds of reasons that have happened, but I think truly it just hasn't been a big enough priority. Because there's always problems with anything you want to do or plan. You've got to find solutions, and too often the NHL and the NHL Players Association haven't been able to find common ground and get something done. But when the players themselves want it so badly, I think fans want it. Obviously reporters like myself bang the drum for it. I mean, come on, at some point let's get this thing going and let's have it be regular and everyone knows when the next one is and the next one and the next one. And you get real continuity and you build stories. And I think you actually grow the game by doing so.
Devil's Details 1. Do most GMs have an arbitrary date game amount? They say they want to see a team into a season before they make any changes.
They don't, but I do think the 20 game mark is kind of unofficially where teams start to believe that's what they are, right? Like when a team starts off with a tough first 7 games, the GM usually is saying like, let's give it another month and see where we're at. And so we're getting to about the 20 game mark for most teams right now. That's why you've heard the US Thanksgiving thing mentioned so often. It's funny. A couple GMs have recently told me like, why do you guys even talk about the US Thanksgiving? Like that's not a real thing, but I just think it coincides with the point in the season where generally front offices start to say, okay, this is what our team is. Where can we make changes? What are we lacking? You know, and so we're basically there, but it's not as much as we all love talking about US Thanksgiving. You and I are going to do our US Thanksgiving show doing contenders and pretenders basically on the same premise. I don't know that the teams themselves have that date circled. They probably only have that date circled because I don't believe there's any NHL games. So it's a good day for a mostly US based league to put its feet up and enjoy family time. But I don't think it's as though on Friday when there's a bunch of afternoon games actually coming up this week, that all of a sudden everyone's going to start making changes or trades or anything like that.
Next one from Dr. Son on Discord. I like this one. I'm curious if the NHL is planning measurements to minimize its impact in the face of the climate catastrophe we're living in. Other major sports organizations like Formula One or ASO, organizers of the Tour de France, are leading the way with carbon neutral goals, bans of single-use plastic bottles, less travel distances. For the NHL, going back to a more division conference-focused schedule to reduce air travel time is something that seems to me like an easy but impactful first step.
Well, the NHL does have a number of green initiatives. I know individual arenas have made some of the bans you're talking about. You know, Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle, I believe almost says no garbage. I want to say, don't quote me on that, but I think it's like an entirely self-sustaining operation. So certainly there's things in the NHL happening. You know, what we haven't seen yet is any specific travel related changes. You know, I think the league, like over the years we have, there was a time, there's been so many variations, say in the last 20 years of how the NHL schedules games. I mean, there was a time when teams often played 2 games in one city a couple days apart. So to reduce the number of total flights they take, we saw that during the COVID, one of the COVID seasons too. You know, I don't think the league likes that. I think logistically it's hard to organize the schedule as long as you're going to have every team playing every team. But I suspect this will continue to be a conversation. I get the feeling that not everybody within the NHL is happy with the current schedule matrix, it's called. Obviously, there's some individual cases we've talked about, whether it's the Battle of Alberta or the Islanders and Rangers. There's a number of sort of what we call big rivalries in the league that those teams only play 3 times this season, despite being in the same division. And so I think you're going to continue to hear that, a talk about getting closer to conference travel or more interdivision play, which would cut down on carbon emissions. But I don't know if it's all going to be driven by a desire to do, to address perceived climate issues, or if it's going to be more just about the product. But basically the answer is no on travel right now, but we might get there, because I do think that there's sort of a general feeling that something needs tweaked.
From Care of Bear on Twitter, would it make sense for players like Alexander Edler to be suspended without pay the same duration of time as the player who they intentionally injured? Maybe we could throw intentionally a little loosely here. So if Connor McDavid was out for 2 weeks with a knee injury, would Edler be out for 2 as well? Like, we'll use intentionally pretty loosely. I know it was written there, but like, we're not saying that.
And that is the reason why I don't think you can do it this way. I mean, how can you say what's intentional? There could be lots of unintentional consequences to maybe a hit that isn't meant to be bad, and then the player's out 4 months. Well, are we going to punish the person for 4 months? I understand all the emotion around the Alex Edler play, and because of who that hit was thrown on, Connor McDavid, or that knee. And I understand why the Oilers were mad. Like, I'm not disputing the play. I don't think you can mete out justice in that manner. There's something that I would feel just about it, sort of this eye for an eye thing. But then think about it. Like, maybe it's not an Edler McDavid play, but maybe it's 2 teams battling in the playoff race, and it's the best player on the other team takes out one of your players, and then that team has to go play your division rival a couple of times. Well, then you might not want that person out of the lineup. So I just think that there's no perfect way for justice. I don't think that's the answer. I do believe that there's room, in my view, for the league to suspend more harshly for all fouls, and I think that would have a trickle down effect of making players a little more cautious in some of the decisions they make. But I don't think you can ever get it where you line up injury time. And I mean, there's just too many injuries in this game, right? And a lot of them, it's not really a clear intentional acts. And I think that's where the issue lies.
Last one from MW Bauer. Love these questions. CJ, what was the last movie you saw in theaters?
Oh, man. I've got no idea. It's years. I don't even know where a movie theater is located. I wouldn't know where to go to a theater.
I mean,
as you know, I have started watching a couple more movies, but I've watched them either at home or on like an airplane, like on a flight or something. But I literally, it's been 5 years probably since I've been in a movie theater, maybe longer. I don't know.
No way. Like 5 years? Like, really?
Actually, I know
the pandemic, I understand, but like, really? Yeah. It's been that long?
Honestly, I've watched less than 10 movies in the last 5 years total.
Jeez.
That's how we get to this whole discussion. That's why you can play a game where you're like, what is this movie about? And I was like, I don't know. I've not heard of any movies.
Someone on Discord, I'm sorry I forget that person's username, did ask if we could do the movie guessing game. And I figured, just today might not have been the best day to do it with the amount of time that we have. But I would like to do it before the end of the year is over.
Yeah, I think we'll have some opportunity in December. Like, you get into a certain part of December and there's a roster freeze. So there's no like trade activity happening or anything like that. I think we have some time. We have an opportunity to be light as we get through the holiday season here. And so, yeah, I'm down for that. I'm so bad at it though. Like, it's cringeworthy. Like it like actually upsets some people.
That's why people like it.
But they also don't, like, some people get mad. They're like, how can you not know that movie? And I was like, I don't know. I just don't.
Okay, I know James Murdoch gets mad, but like, not everyone gets mad.
Right. But like, there's only so many hours, right? Like, you could, like, I watched the Grey Cup last night. Like, probably lots of people didn't, right? But so if I'm watching the Grey Cup, I can't be watching a movie at the same time. And let's be real, like, because of my job, I watch NHL hockey games basically every single day for 180 days during the regular season. There's just not a lot of other time between having some semblance of a life and trying to be a good son and all those things and watching that much hockey that I have time to.
Did you just say try to be a good son?
Yeah, I'm just saying, like,
Aw.
I just mean, like, go see my dad from time to time, or, like,
Yeah.
we all have the same. My life is no different than anyone else's. We all have the same problem. There's 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week, 365 days in a year, and we have a lot of different things that we have to do. And so, movies just is too low down on my priority list to see a lot of movies. That's why I wanted to do the movie corner, because it would force me to see some stuff, because I know it would be good. And let's be honest, now that we're on this side of mid-November, I'm just going to be watching a lot of Christmas movies if I watch any movies now anyway. So,
Okay. So now we got to find you. Wait, do you consider Die Hard a Christmas movie?
I've never seen it, so I can't say.
Ooh, okay. All right. That might have to be in the movie corner then, because that is a topic.
I
That's
saw
a
an
good one.
advertisement for a Christmas movie with Ryan Reynolds in it called Spirited, and Will Ferrell.
With, Will Ferrell. Yes.
So I'm going to watch that, because I figured that's sort of hockey related, with Ryan Reynolds being in the NHL news these days.
That is very true. That is very true. Prospective NHL owner Ryan Reynolds in the upcoming holiday film Spirited with Will Ferrell. That's going to do it for our Monday edition of the CJ Show. Siege, thank you for being a good sport with all of these questions, a little bit more than we would normally take for Ask CJ, but the circumstances were allowed us to do so.
I can't believe you didn't pick the one where someone asked me to make my favorite fast food order from all the different fast food places.
Do you want to take that one? I don't know how much time you have.
Well, that was on Twitter, and I actually answered it in my newsletter. But like, I spent, like, this is the funny thing. Like, those questions, it's supposed to be a great way to interact, right? But I probably spent like 40 minutes like ruminating, like, what is the right way? Because obviously I try not to eat too much fast food, but it's hard.
It's hard.
Like, there's no perfect order, I would say. Like, if I'm going to have a fast food burger, though, I like McDonald's, man. And so
you can do better than McDonald's for burgers.
Yeah, but I knew you'd be a snob about this. I knew it. Like, we're talking
You
fast
could,
food,
but you could easily do better than I like McDonald's as much as the next guy. There are better places to get burgers.
Well, I'm not saying that. It's again,
Five Guys.
You're like one of these guys that says, like, don't eat pizza because you could go to Italy or whatever. It's like, no, but pizza.
No, I would never say that. As someone who's like had to maybe not live off pizza, I wouldn't say that.
I'm just saying that McDonald's. So it would be a Big Mac for me, and then you go to the fries, right? And like, oddly, I actually really like McDonald's fries. Like, I think
that is like McDonald's fries. You don't get better than that.
But what I settled on was the Arby's curly fries, which they're pretty elite. I don't know if you've had an Arby's curly.
I've actually never had.
And then I'm not I don't drink any pop or anything, but I was thinking like a Wendy's Frosty to end it. And, a little nod to my Wendy's days. I spent a lot of nights cleaning a Frosty machine at like 11:30 at night in high school. So I feel like a closeness, a kinship to the Frosty. So that's where I landed. But anyway, I thought it was a great question, because there's so many ways you could go. And but yeah, and I knew you'd be a McDonald's snob. I knew it.
There are the fries are perfect. There are so many other places you could get. Like, Harvey's makes better burgers than McDonald's.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Oh man, dude,
my biggest thing was, do I choose a quarter pounder or a Big Mac? Because I love both, but
I haven't had a Big Mac in years. Quarter pounders I like, but like Big Macs I haven't had in a long time.
Right. Did you go to the Elbow Room, by the way?
No, I did not. My hotel was like 40 minutes away from the Elbow Room, so I did not go to the Elbow Room.
Sawgrass.
Yes, I did. I didn't even get to go to the mall. I was nowhere near a beach.
What?
Like, that was I know. Like, it was
okay.
Yeah, I know.
Next time you go on a road trip, you got to consult Uncle CJ like in advance.
I got an email from good buddy Wes Gilbertson, who covers the team, saying, like, if you ever need any help on travel arrangements, let me know. I got roasted pretty hard for that.
As a visiting reporter, it's tough to cover Panthers games because of logistics. But your choice comes down to, you either stay at the beach and just deal with the long commute because you're at the beach when you're not working, or you stay at you go to Sawgrass Mills Mall, which is right across the street from the arena, which is a great place to either eat or shop. We're getting close to holiday season. You could have got some shopping done on your spare time, but you don't go to either of those two things. Have you even been there? Like, what have you done?
Oh man, the roast just keep just bring it out, man. The roast just keep coming, man. Oh, yeah.
Well,
Anyway,
you saw a cool game though. It's actually, I enjoyed that one afternoon game.
It was a good game.
Saturday. So
it was a good game. It was a good shootout. It was a lot of drama. It was worth the trip.
did they have any greasy food in the press box? Like I remember,
Chicken
like
fingers
wings or any?
was
Oh,
there.
chicken fingers. Oh yeah.
And they had like sliders. They had sliders there too.
Oh man, that's pretty good.
It's not bad.
There's 32 press boxes. I'm telling you, there's not very many you're getting sliders in. Like that might be the one in the league. So
Yeah, okay. I have to think of that might be the only one I can think of where I've had sliders, at least in the press box like that.
you know what
Anyway.
they have in the Scotiabank Arena press box is pizza. Because
Yes.
they know what's up here.
It's better. I'll say this. Pizza better than Pizza 73. It's better
yeah.
than Pizza 73.
Somehow
it's way
one
better.
bought the other, but they're not the same thing. Like they just
No,
it's
they're
just-
not.
I don't know what their head office is doing, but Pizza 73 should just copy whatever Pizza is because they're the same company somehow.
I'm sorry to Pizza 73 if you had any thoughts of being a sponsor on this show, but hey,
I wouldn't
maybe
I wouldn't allow it. Pizza 73, like seriously, like I've been out to Alberta and I've been at my buddy James's, and Pizza 73 is brutal. Like I thought it was the same thing as Pizza. It's brutal.
no, it's dude, those are two different things. By the way, I don't hate Pizza. I like Pizza. I mean, I prefer Domino's, but like I don't hate Pizza for the record. I like Pizza.
All right.
I just want that clear.
I love that the
Okay.
last 10 minutes just evolved into junk food discussion.
This is one of the best segments we've ever like just impromptu just kind of had. I was trying to like close the show. I was like, nope, let's just have this outro. I love this. But yeah, we'll be back on Thursday with Contenders and Pretenders. And hey, if you want us to debate junk food, we'll do that too. Who knows?
Yeah, just keep those interesting Ask CJ questions coming.
Yes, please do that. For Siege, I'm Julian. So long. Peace. We'll be back on Thursday. And I don't know why you'd think McDonald's burgers are better than, you know what? Let me not start that debate again. Let's just end the episode.
Mix in a salad, bud.
Yes, for your health.
The Chris Johnston Show.
Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada's sportsbook.
Inside the game, twice a week. Follow Chris on Twitter at Reporter Chris. And follow Julian McKenzie at JK McKenzie.
The Chris Johnston Show.